Welcome to Are You Killing It, the podcast powered by Peak Performance Partners, where our mission is to help your business achieve success faster. I'm your host, Dr. John Ronaldo, and each week our team of business experts brings you the tools, insights, and strategies you need to kill it in your business. No fluff, truly just real talk to fuel your growth. So let's dive in. Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Are You Killing It podcast.
Start your engine.
We are back. We are back. I just love it. I get excited at the beginning of every podcast.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something to get this going. I am joined here, as always, by the founders, creators, the magicians behind Peak Performance Partners. I've got across from me Patrick Stewart. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Hello. Kevin Hernandez. What's going on?
Yay.
And Ricky Navarre. Oh my gosh, hear the crazy sounds. And this intro is perfect for our topic today because this is episode 13 and we're going to be talking about culture that clicks, how to make work more fun and productive. All right? And productive is key. I don't want to lose the high D's and the high C's in the audience by saying fun. But I think the S's and the I's are ready to rock and roll here with the fun part, right?
Amen.
So, I love it. Well, culture is obviously a huge part of what we talk about in business, and it sometimes has effects that we don't always see. Right? I mean, that's the reality of the role that culture plays. And yet good leaders, good business owners need to be looking at the culture of their organization, figuring out how do we make this more fun, more productive, more efficient, because at the end of the day, the healthier your culture is, the healthier your company is going to be in terms of achieving your results and goals that I think are so important. So we're going to delve right in here. Obviously, we got a little bit of fun in this culture here at 3 Peak because, you know, they all make weird sounds. I don't know if I can make those weird sounds. Okay, but
Try it, John. Try it. Just
try
a
little.
No, I'm just going to go right into the questions. Ricky, this is perfect for you, all right, because I'm just going to ask this question. Why is fun at work not just nice to have, but essential? Okay, I'm asking the high I first, all right? So why is fun essential?
Who wants to go to a place of work that's boring?
Right.
Like, honestly, if you don't look forward to going to work, that sucks. Like, I think that is it's as simple as that, honestly.
Kevin, what are your thoughts there?
So I think it's a great stress reliever, right? When you're able to let your personality come out a little, right? When you're working, and because work's going to be stressful, right? There's things that are going to be going on, and if you don't have a sense of humor about a little stress, then you got nothing.
Little sense of humor about a little bit of stress. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, man.
Or a lot of sense of humor about a lot of sense of stress.
That's
All right? Okay.
Yeah, and they say that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
What does that mean? I've heard that. I've heard that a million times. Is this like eat your Wheaties type of thing? Like what? Tell us, what does that mean? Culture eats your strategy for breakfast.
Here's what happens.
And maybe
is
lunch
this.
and dinner.
And I think most businesses, when they go in for their strategy, what is strategy, right? It's the tactics. All right, how are we going to get from where we're at today to where we're heading to, and what do we need to do to get there? And so that's just, it's all logical. So it's all building upon logic. If I do this, this is going to happen. If I do this, I'm going to get my results. And so it's logic. What happens is where people lose it is on the emotional side of the equation. And that's where culture comes in. Culture is tapping into somebody's emotional motivators. And that's really the fire that's in the gut that keeps somebody going, right? That and organizations, and this is the thing is, a lot of organizations are like, yeah, well, I they'll either have some, letters up on the wall and they go, yeah, look at my culture. And you're like, okay, but let me go talk to your employee. Now that's just letters on a wall. Or the other side, if they go, well, we don't have that. We don't have a culture. And I'm like, no, you have a culture. In fact, you have culture and you have subcultures. So, but what it is this, it's either by design or default. So if you haven't designed it, you have it. By default, you have it.
I think you just shot an arrow in some people's hearts, right? Because the idea that it's by design or default, how many people listening, right, myself included, when I think about the work that I've done, have been intentional about developing that culture. Well, let's delve in. Kevin.
Well, so I think to have fun, it helps build your mental fortitude, right? And it helps you with your, if you've got any type of mental health problems, if you can't have fun, I mean, I always like to say that that's the perfect remedy for anything that's going on that's negative in your life. If you can come and portray this happy-go-lucky, fun, energizing personality, you got some good mental health going on.
So I'm a business owner. I'm a high C, right? We talked about the DISC profile. If you want to learn more about DISC, take a look at our podcast feed and take a look at that. So high C, conscientious, very detail-oriented, very logical, right, Patrick, to your point, a lot of numbers thing.
Yep, non-emotional.
I'm good with a non-emotional culture. Why should I care about this?
Because it helps bond people.
I don't want to bond with people.
Again,
I want to get the job done.
Then you know what? Let's go back to the last podcast where you and I need to have a one-on-one.
Let's go. Wow, he just called me out here. He just called me out. I may not return from that one-on-one. That's what I'm particularly concerned about it. But
it strengthens. I mean, there's studies that show that like a relaxed, fun atmosphere actually creates tighter bonds with groups of people, and that can happen at work for sure.
And no matter what your DISC profile is, right? I mean, the high I's maybe default really to this idea, but everybody benefits ultimately, to your point, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really clear. It's really crucial to define fun, because when people right now are hearing this podcast, they're thinking fun. They're thinking cake and balloons and streamers and woo, right? Like, oh, this is, no. I think it's really important to understand and explain, hey, everybody's fun's a little bit different, right? How
absolutely.
C's have fun and how I's have fun and D's have fun. But I think it really comes down to overall enjoyment, right? You want to enjoy your work. You want to have it be enjoyable, right? Is what we would call fun, because it kind of reminds me of the Wright brothers, right? I kind of got this from Simon Sinek's Start With Why, but he tells about how the Wright brothers, they would go out with 5 sets of parts, and the people who would go out with them would work, with blood and sweat and tears, and they would work tirelessly on this project that nobody even knew about, right? Like, it wasn't doing for anybody else, but the right culture will drive your people, and they will run through walls for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And that's what eats strategy for breakfast, because when things go wrong, when things go bad, welcome to the world of owning a business. And a business owner right here is like, man, yeah, you were picking up what I'm putting down, because I'm going through something right now. And I had my plan, I had my strategy, but right now it's tough, right? But your people will get you through it. Your people will pull you up. They'll pull up there by the bootstraps, and they'll put in the extra hours, the extra time. They're not going to be the ones that clock out. If you have a horrible culture because there's just work, they're going to work for the paycheck. They're going to show up and be like, all right, 5 o'clock, 4:40, 4:59. No more customers walk through that door. All right, okay, it's 5. Lock it.
Lock the door. Yeah.
Versus
4:59.
Yeah, versus somebody who just absolutely is about culture and serving and believing in your mission, your culture. These people will stick with you, good, bad, and they're going to be like, hey, I got you. Let's go. We're going to rally. We're going to figure this out. And that's where people, because they enjoy showing up to work, because they're tied into it, right? For them, it's still fun. Even though it's work,
It's fun.
it's enjoyable. Yeah, it's
And
fun.
not to mention, it also promotes social interaction. I mean, again, when we take ourselves back to grade school, I think one of my favorite fun times was recess, right? And again, you have the structure for learning, but then you have recess. And that's where you have fun, social interaction, bring that back into the class, and get yelled at.
And get spanking.
I don't know if they do that at school anymore. But
They did it when I was a kid.
When I was a kid, yeah.
You might have released your age there, so
Yeah,
we'll
that's all right.
let that one alone.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm a business owner. I'm a leader here, listening, watching. Patrick, how do I go about intentionally creating the type of culture that I'm looking for? That's fun, that's effective, that's relationship building. How do I do that?
Yeah. So what I would say is we always start, and we actually have an assessment that does this, but it's most business owners, where they're putting out fires or where their frustration at is at the symptom level, right? So they've got a symptom of their company, right? People are showing up late to meetings, or they're not engaged in meetings, or they're not, doing their paperwork. They're not, making sure that if there's a change order, that change order gets documented. So those are symptoms. So then you go back to, okay, what's the root cause of those, right? And typically that's where you're going to find this C word, culture. You're going to find that, hey, you don't have a culture of accountability. You don't have a culture that, you know what, hey, when I'm walking across the parking lot and I see garbage, I'm going to pick that garbage up. You know why? Because what I do from a mindset place with the little stuff is going to go to the big stuff. So I'm going to be paying attention, and I want our place to look good. I want it to look right. I want it to feel right. I want to talk to people with respect and be spoken to with respect. And so those are like cultural items that start to happen. And then that's why by design, you want to design that. You want to ask yourself, okay, hey, what are the things that I want? What's bugging me? And then kind of reverse engineer that and say, okay, so from a cultural perspective, what would that look like of those things not bothering me? And a lot of those things that I just brought up, right? Like being late. Some people are continually late, or some people they don't give their all the time. And so, that's what we want to start to. So then you start putting those into a culture, some culture words, and then culture statement. And then it truly is like, now we got to start living up to that culture. And I would say, like, our organization, when one of the things we do with meetings, we respect each other's time. So we're not late to meetings. And we started that early on. We call them our 5 a.m. strategic planning sessions on a Saturday.
Not on Monday morning?
No, because at that time, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. were sacred, because that's when we needed to be either getting business or doing business. As we started gaining success, we were able to go, okay, so we would have these meetings on Saturday morning at 5 a.m. And so if somebody was 1 minute late, the other two that were there were calling. Like, where are you at? Where are you at? And then all of a sudden, none of us would be late. We would be there because, again, it was about respect, but it started to create this culture of accountability and responsibility that, hey, you know what? I'm going to make sure I leave my house if I got to leave 5 minutes early to, put in for traffic. Or Kevin was always bringing the donuts, so he left probably 30 minutes earlier than Ricky and I had to leave.
That's how you bring the fun. Right there,
And
the
that was part of
donuts.
the fun.
That's how you bring the
Food
fun.
equals fun.
Real quickly, Patrick, at the beginning of that, you mentioned an assessment. Can you tell us a little bit about this assessment that Three Peak has that kind of helps with this? Just real brief.
Yeah, so it's called the Complete Business Analysis. And really, the way we've all taken our car in and put it into the diagnostic. Okay, so what we did is we said, how do we do this for businesses? So we went and created a similar type diagnostic, which we called the Complete Business Analysis for businesses. And it's not as easy as us just plugging it in, but we do go in and get 70 points of data, which takes us about a week to get. And we put that in. It uses AI, so it's specific to your industry, the number of revenue, the amount of revenue you have, the number of employees, what markets you're in. So then it makes everything relevant, but then it will show you, okay, these are some of the things you're currently experiencing, and here's how we're going to fix those.
And culture is one of those.
And culture
is one of
big
those.
time.
So if you're listening to this, you're interested in learning more about the Complete Business Analysis, you can go to 3-peak.com. Check that out. We definitely have some more information for you there. So thank you, Patrick, for mentioning that.
Shameless plug.
Oh, well, it is what it is. But it's a tool that is really helpful. That's why we do what we do, right? At the end of the day. Kevin, Patrick mentioned about culture words and culture statements. What role this is new, a little bit new to me, so I'm asking for me too. Cultural words, cultural statements, how do we utilize those? How do we come up with them? And how do we utilize those to help what's the word I'm looking for? To propagate a culture.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, number one, if you're developing a culture statement, you need to involve the people in your organization, because the culture statement doesn't come from the leader. Because, again, you want to get everyone involved. You want that buy-in, right? Other ways that you can create that culture is, we see it all the time. People have words up on the walls, right? And They have standards by which they live by. And one of the things we like to say is, we don't do that here, right? When you're implying a certain type of a behavior that you're looking for from your organization, you instill that through your culture statement. You instill it through meetings that promote and help keep that culture thriving.
Yeah. Can I jump in on here?
No.
All right, let me say. I'm going to jump in.
We
on
just
here.
had fun there, by the way.
Depends on what perspective.
Yeah,
you
that
come
one.
from, yeah.
I think one of the things is kind of like the mantras, like what do you say? And back to what Kevin said, like what do you stand on, right? It's like that's that regular go-to. So there's one of my kids' coaches, rest in peace, Coach Odom. He had two sayings the kids and everybody lived by, right? It would when he was training them, he would say, "Last one, best one." And he would do every rep, every set, last one, best one, last one, best one. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you do the last one, make it your best, give it your all. And that became part of his culture. When these kids were working out, he'd be like, when they were just on the very edge of like, I'm done on Friday, he's like, nope, last one, best one. Right? And the other thing he would say is go be great. Go be great was his ending. It didn't matter when they were gonna go start, when he ended, when he left, it was just go be great. You know what I mean? And they got wristbands for him, but it was one of those moments that he created a culture that still resonates, that ripples through the lives of those he touches. And even my kids still say, quote that, like go be great or last one, best one. So when they're down and they're struggling, and that kind of speaks to the culture, like what are you about? Because your team will follow by default or by design kind of who you are and what you want it to be. So it's kind of saying, hey, when you see something, we call it out like, hey, we don't do that here. But what are the other things that you see? So that not only we don't do that here, but what do we do here? All right. And so when somebody is behaving in a way where that you don't want, great. Right. It's good to call them out. But then how do you lift them up and say, hey, right? We don't do that. We don't break each other down here. We lift each other up. Oh, so-and-so's having a problem. Oh, every single time so-and-so comes in the office, oh, this person's always late. All right. I acknowledge that. All right. So how are we going to lift that person up? You know what I mean? And that's one of those mantras that you can set in to start setting your culture. So what do you want to be about? What do you want to be known for?
So certainly as a leader, you have to model it, right? And what are those phrases? I think we all have them as leaders, the things that we always say that when your culture can become a joke because we say it all the time, it's sinking in, right? That type of thing. It's really powerful. So in terms of communication of culture, we already talked about modeling it. We talked about stuff on walls, right? How else do we communicate culture, whether a culture of fun, productivity? How do we do that in a way that's really going to stick with our team?
I think you got to continue to bring it forward, right? You got to, so in meetings, have a moment where you say, hey, let's talk about a peak moment, right? Let's say if peak is, maybe we did like an acronym of, PEAK, and so it's like, all right, hey, what's a peak moment? So you kind of bring that forward. So you're always referring back to it, or hey, is that peak behavior, right? When we're kind of like calling somebody out on something that they're like, to your point, we don't do that here, right? Is that peak behavior? Is that going to get us to the peak? So it's really just starting to bring it always forward and lifting it. So you're being in it present. So then that way everybody's like, they understand, yeah, this is all right. Because knowing what important as what it is, it's understanding also what it isn't. And when you've got this, is this, when somebody, it's the see-say ratio. So for those of you on here, when you see something not right and you're able to call somebody out and there's no gap there, and that's from top to bottom of an organization, that's when that culture is eating strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, they're calling.
And I don't think that culture just necessarily has to pertain to internal. Your culture can resonate externally as well.
Well,
in your community.
That see-say culture, I'll call it that, is really something aspirational, right? I think for a lot of us, right? Because so many of us avoid conflict, avoid calling out those types of things. That's going to require a huge change of behavior in folks. So obviously modeling it, stuff on walls, but again, using meetings, right? Using those opportunities, one-on-one staff meetings, quarterly getaways, whatever, to kind of keep reiterating these cultures is really key. How can a leader, add fun without sacrificing productivity, right? Because we still want to be productive. Oh, Ricky's got his hand up, so I think we'll let him respond.
I'm gonna steal this one before Patrick jumps in on it, because this is a good one. You create mini games. All right, Patrick, I'll let you take it from here.
That's a high right there.
Mini games? What? Do I need to play mini games on my phone? Is this an app? What is this?
You know what? No. What you want to do is again, you're injecting some fun into it. And I'll give you an example of a client. So we had a client. They're a manufacturer, and they have this reporting. They call it button to button. So what it is through their manufacturing process, when you get something from one stage to the next stage, that's the button to the next button. And so they had a timing thing there. However, nobody was keeping track of the timing. They weren't doing, because you have to manually say, okay, I'm starting this process. All right, I finished. I clock in, clock out, kind of a thing. So I said, well, let's create a mini game. And they also were having frustration with everybody showing up and ready to work at 8 a.m. So people would clock in at 8, then they'd go grab their coffee, they go to the bathroom. Oh, now I need to go smoke my cigarette, and then come back in. And they're like, no, the shift starts at 8. That means you're on the floor ready. The production is ready to start at 8. So what we did is we did a mini game. And so we broke their team up into 3 teams, the whole company. And then we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. For the buttons to buttons, you're going to get this much. This is the score. So we created a scoring mechanism. Then we also said, hey, if your whole team's here on time, you get 10 points. For every minute somebody's late from your whole team, you get 5 minutes deducted from your overall time. So now what started to happen, that created this peer pressure, right, in a good way, because now I said, but the key is this: at the end of every day, you got to post the scores. And then we're going to have a winner at the end of the week. And it doesn't have to be this great thing. It could be just, hey, I'm bringing donuts, and the winning team on Friday is going to have donuts. So it can be something very simple as a reward. But what it did is it started to create, and they said they reported back within a month, all of those problems were fixed. Nobody was no longer coming in late. And also all of the buttons to buttons were getting accomplished.
That's incredible.
Will you tell the story about?
That's an example of a mini game.
Will you tell
I love
the story?
Kevin's turn.
I don't know what's going on here.
Story.
I think I just lost control of this podcast here. What's going on? So-
Tell the culture story about the days off, or the second shift and third shift. I think it's a great.
The second shift.
Yeah, what about we did so.
Oh
many,
yeah.
Continue, please.
Well, again, this is where KPIs, right? If you can get the right number. So there's a 2 stories that I'm going to tell. One is a grocery store that they put up, because they were having lots of trips and falls. They were having all kinds of accidents. So they said throughout the organization, they put up a number that said, hey, this many days without an accident. And so you went to the store. We've all been to the store. We never knew there was this number up there. Or if we did, we go, that doesn't mean anything to us, right? But to all of the team members, it meant something. And so they would want that number to get higher and higher and higher. And then all of a sudden, they'd see it go down to 0 because somebody had some type of accident, right? A trip and fall is usually what happens in a grocery store. So those kinds of KPIs. But what Kevin's referring to is, there was a time when we were trying, a company was trying to get more, say it again?
Production.
Yeah, more production out of their team, right? And so what happened was they came in and they brought all kinds of consultants in, and they were like, all right, how do we get this production up on our team? And so one of the guys finally came in after a bunch of management changes, everything. He went over by the time clock, put a big 7. The evening shift came in, and they said, what's that 7? And they go, hey, that's how many crates of ore the team got, first shift got. So the next day they came in, and there was a 9. 7 was crossed off, there was a 9. And then the next time, they got it up to 13. So they were able to get their production up from 7 to an ongoing rate of 13, so almost double. And that's what it ended up being. And it was just kind of that. But it's kind of comes back to a culture of accountability, production. And if you can get that around, like either a saying, right, a mantra, a saying, a number, that everybody's now realizing, hey, this is what we're as a team. And if I let you guys down now with like that company I was telling you before, if I show up 10 minutes late, before it was no big deal. I was 10 minutes late. Now guess what I did? I just cost my team 50 points to get donuts.
It's gamification, right? In some ways, it's gamification. How do we, with part of this culture and creating some fun, but also productivity, turning a game, turning into a game, a competition, even in some ways, right? To see, and then from moving from 17 units or 7 units to 13 units in one shift, like that's life changing for any company, right? To be able to have that type of productivity increase because you add a little fun to your culture.
Yeah.
That's an incredible way to end this this episode on culture. So, guys, thank you so much. This culture piece is so important. So, again, take a look at the complete business analysis if you want to get some feedback about your own culture. We don't know what we don't know, right? And that's what the CBA is for. So, go 3-peak.com, check that out. Subscribe, follow, listen. We would love to have you continue to journey with us on this podcast journey, but also to share it with friends, families, neighbors, managers, bosses, whoever you want to share it with. We'd love to have them be part of this journey. I think that calls a wrap for this particular episode of the Are You Killing It podcast. Gentlemen, thank you again for all you do. We appreciate it and hope you are killing it in your business.
Let's go.
Peace out.